But I think the echo might have been my side, so hopefully that's sorted.
Okay. Right, we are live, but it takes normally a while for people to come on and tell us if they can hear us.
Okay, so guys, we think that we fixed it. I think it was a problem on both ends.
Oh, God.
I think that echo was my fault, but I don't know what the rest of it was bloody doing.
No, I think it was it's because it's being recorded back.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Okay, great. Does Chloe have an echo?
Do I have an echo, and can you... Am I really loud?
Sounds good.
See, the dream team of you and James. I would say that you guys should coach together, but James doesn't answer questions very well. His go-to answer for coaching tends to be, just fucking get on with it. I'm like,
train
no.
harder. But that's like an athlete mindset, isn't it? When I first started like personal training, I look back and I'm like, I was the worst trainer because I was like, well, why wouldn't someone stick to it? Like, I've told them to do it. There's nothing more I can do. Like,
I know. It takes like a good fair few cycle of people to have the same problems over and over and over again when you realise that being a good coach is nothing but good experience and lots of it. Like that's it. That's all it comes down to. We actually just had a really interesting question. Ooh. Which I was, and it's not in under the questions, but I thought we could maybe discuss it on here. So before we kick off with questions, Emma, is there anything that you want to address week 2? Because obviously it's Saturday and week 2 will start in a couple days.
Okay, so there's new workouts for the newbies. Some of you I sent gym workouts because you have access to the gym. Okay, wait, sorry, I thought there was another sound issue. There's not. Okay, so some of you I sent gym workouts because you got. Why are you laughing so much?
It's James just farted.
No, I didn't.
Sorry. We've got the giggles at the moment as well. Okay, right, God. Go again. Okay. So week 2.
Yeah. Okay, so some of the workouts have changed. So if you're doing the sort of daily workouts that we've set for the newbies, they have changed. They will be a little bit harder. Again, just all we care about, and we know that some people can do 50 push-ups and some people are struggling to do 5. That's absolutely fine. All we care about is that you're working hard, and you will get results if you work hard. In terms of the gym workouts, they are for a minimum 4-week block. Like, if you have access to the gym, you need to be training in a slightly different way. You've been programmed in a slightly different way, and those programs will not change for 4 weeks. The idea behind that is that each week you progress on that. Now, if every week when you go to the gym you have a completely new workout, it's very hard to progress. So that is why those will be staying the same. The same is partly true. So we're going to do every 2 weeks for the EC method graduates, correct?
Yeah. Agreed.
And it's the same sort of thing. Like, we want to see you really progress now, and it's not as much about just keeping you entertained almost by changing the workouts and making them really interesting. Obviously, we will be doing that, but we want you to do them week 1. Set yourself a bar, a level to hit. You know what you did last week. Now beat that. That's what you want to do week 2. So those are the sort of 3 different things. If that wasn't clear because I rambled a little bit. Newbies, you have new workouts this week. Graduates, you will have new workouts next week. We want you to progress on the ones you've done this week. Anyone who is doing the gym workouts, you will be on those gym workouts for a 4-week block.
Yeah, I just want to come in here and say, for everybody, whether you are in a gym or not, in an ideal world, as a coach, we would actually be giving the same workouts week after week after week, as Emma said, for, at least 4 weeks, if not 8, if not 12, right? And that is because the reason why, and it obviously especially applies to weighted workouts, but really across the board. And the reason why is because you've got to get used to the workouts. That in and of itself is going to take a couple of weeks to do, to actually really get used to the modality of how you're moving, how it feels, what good form you're meant to be executing every exercise with, and also B, to actually be able to increase your fitness and increase your strength in really important areas, like say with push-ups or with dips or with like there are some things that we really want to focus on. However, the reason why we switch it up, especially for the newbies and the kind of the circuit training, is because we don't want you guys to get bored, number one, and because it's kind of, there's only so many exercises you can do at home. It's not really that suboptimal if we switch out mountain climbers for burpees. Like, it doesn't really matter, right? But it's mainly so you don't get bored. And yes, just to reiterate what Emma said, with the graduates, we kind of know what equipment you have now, which is hugely helpful to us in terms of coaching you in an optimal fashion. And because of that, we are going to give you repeated workouts. You'll see when you get them that some things will change. So I've increased the time of mine. And if you read through the advice, I've recatered it to some of the feedback I got from week 1. So definitely read the notes because they will be updated. But yeah, we know what you've got. We know where you're at with your strength and fitness. And we're going to kind of have like a foundation to push you on. But yeah, I think that should address it.
Yeah, just to I know we're just hammering this home, but I've also put in a few with the newbies, like benchmark workouts.
Yeah.
So, and that's just really so you can see how you progress. So yes, one thing, if you're here for fat loss, which the majority of people are, one thing is your scale weight, one thing is your measurements, another thing is your performance. So if you can increase your performance, if you can say, okay, last time I did this workout, I managed 2 full press ups, then I had to go to my knees, but now I've managed almost 10 before I go to my knees. That's huge progress, and performance markers are really important. So that's why sometimes there will be something like a benchmark workout where you can see how far you've come. The other thing, just like on a physiological level, you will get bored before your body does. Your body doesn't care that you did this workout last week. All it cares is that you're pushing it and you're applying that stress to it, and it will adapt to that stress to make sure that you can do more exercise the next time, where you can more easily cope with that load the next time, and that's how you progress and that's how you build muscle.
Yeah. I would say that my workouts, especially when the gyms are open, Monday, like every single week, they are the same. And then I would say every few months, I will make a real conscious effort to alter something about them, whether it be like a wide stance instead of a narrow stance, or if I change the weight, say from dumbbells to cables, or I'll change the sets and reps, something that I'll do to basically kind of keep my body responding and make sure that my training is progressing. But yeah, ultimately it is a bit of an issue as a coach with clients. I get this when I do one-on-one coaching, constantly being asked to change workouts when actually it's suboptimal. But again, we don't want you getting bored, and part of our job is to change the workout so you don't get bored. So so just bear in mind, if you see something and you're like, oh, just go with it, we know what we're doing. And we're not being lazy, which hopefully we've proven already. Okay, so anything else week 2?
Did you want to go over anything?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
You might be about to say exactly the same thing.
Okay, go on.
But in terms of results,
yes.
Yeah. So some people have sort of said, oh, I've not lost weight yet. It's been less than a week. It's completely normal to have not lost weight yet. And also so many of these things, let's say, for example, you are the week prior to your period. Now, I personally put on about 3 pounds that week, at least. Now, if I'd lost 1 pound of fat, that still means that during my first week on this diet, I still put on 2 pounds. So your fat loss can be so easily masked on the scale. And that's why we focus so much on the process over the outcome. So you know that if you're sticking to your calories, if you're getting your workouts in, if you're getting your steps in, if you're getting in enough protein and fruit and veg, those are the things we want you to do, because we know that if you do those, as a byproduct, you will lose body fat. And that is what you focus on, because that's what you have control over.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The other thing I would say is that, obviously, and I put this in the post, and I don't want to sound, I am genuinely, like, this is totally, totally genuine here. I love it how many people are commenting under things. Honestly, it makes Emma's and my jobs a lot easier. It makes our life a lot easier. I love the support. That's the whole point in the Facebook group. We've actually realized, especially with the second round, that if somebody doesn't have Facebook, this might not really work for them, because you guys are so supportive and you have direct access to Emma and I when you tag us. And thank you to everybody tagging us in posts that we're not tagged in. We really appreciate it. But there are some people giving advice, which is fab, but it's quite coaching specific advice, like how many calories somebody else should be on. Thank you for your help, genuinely, but please, please, please don't do that. Tag Emma and I. Look, a lot of people are saying, should I increase my calories if I'm not losing? First point, Emma's point, we're like 6 days in. Just give it a minute, okay? That's the first thing. And the second thing I would say is the only time we want clients increasing their calories, it's really specific in a fat loss phase. I mean, in an ideal world, we would just keep, but that's obviously really bad coaching. That's not what we're going to do. But the only people who should be increasing their calories are people who have had a good old back and forth with Emma and I first. It does not apply to everyone. It doesn't apply to the vast majority. So please tag us and be careful what advice you're taking about really specific things like that, because that should really be coming from Emma and I.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it can get, like, the other thing is, no matter what the advice is, like, take it from one source, like us. We're your coaches. That's why you're here. If you start listening to everyone, you'll have one day where you're like, oh, I need to increase my calories. And then you'll hear someone else the next day saying you should lower them. You're like, oh, I'll lower my calories. And you end up getting nowhere. So stick to our advice, stick to what we're saying. You will get results. You have to be consistent. Like, with everything, I always tell people, like, do something for 2 weeks. Even things like a morning routine. You might do it once and be like, doesn't work for me. Okay, do it for 2 weeks. If it doesn't work, fine, don't do it. Stick to your calories for 2 weeks. If you haven't lost weight, okay, fine. We'll look at the situations, because it could be something else going on. But if you're sort of someone who's weighing yourself consistently, maybe you're weighing yourself every day, you've not lost weight over 2 weeks, it's probably a long enough time period that we know we need to lower your calories or increase your expenditure.
Agreed. Okay, fine. So I think we can jump into the questions. I've got a little bit of an echo on mine, so I'm just going to check it one more time. Yeah, it should be okay. Guys, can you hear an echo, or am I okay?
No one has said they can hear an echo. Can you hear an echo?
Yeah, but it's complete. It doesn't bother me anyway. Oh, it's gone now as well.
Okay.
Isn't technology fun? Okay, so right, I've got the questions post. I can get it back up again. I've had one question come in right now, which I thought would be good to address right now, and B is a good kind of overall question. So, hi Emma and Chloe. I know that we're not focusing on the scales. Well, we are, but just not overly. But I have gained weight. I am 54 kg. I've now gone up to 55.5 kg. I have been spot on with my diet and consistent. I've always done a lot of running and HIIT. I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong. So the first things I would say is there are short-term spikes on the scale due to certain things. These things can be due to, as Emma just said, one, your hormonal cycle. If you're due on, you can see a huge spike in the scale, and it's nothing to worry about at all. So I would say think about your menstrual cycle, and I will ask you all this on the questions as well. 2, if you've gone from having, even if it's a higher calorie diet, but that's filled with things like, for example, Haribo, and then you drop calories, but in every single meal you're having broccoli, cauliflower, veg, that fiber intake is going to spike up, and so is your scale weight. 3, if you have started eating more higher sodium foods, then you are going to see that scale weight spike up. 4, if you have dramatically increased or decreased, but likely increase your water, you can see the scale spike up. All of these things will level out, by the way, when you get some kind of consistency. It is quite normal sometimes to see a scale spike in week 1, as much as it is quite normal to see it drop. The last thing I would say is, you say that you're spot on with your diet, but I tend to find in the beginning, especially the week 1, week 2, some people think that they're tracking accurately, but they're not. So I would just say really diligently go through your tracking and make sure that everything kind of is coming up about right. And lastly, I would say if you're consistent, you're hitting your calories, you're doing everything right, it's very unlikely that what you've gained is body fat, especially in 6 days. Very, very unlikely that you've gained 1.5 kg of body fat, if not impossible.
Yeah, I'm going to say impossible.
Yeah, I'm going to say impossible too. So I would say cool out, relax. Ideally, give it a couple weeks. And if you're still struggling, we can drop your calories a bit. I said to somebody today, I am increasing your workout times as you go. So that is always one good thing, that we're kind of ticking that box for you guys. So you should keep progressing. But do come to Emma and I and we can lower your calories. Emma, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. I think it's really common initially. And someone who, so like, what is she, 52 kilograms, 55?
She's gone from 54 kg to 55.5 kg.
Okay, and I can see why that would maybe alarm me a little bit, because in relation to how light you are, it's quite a big jump up. But it's all like, I mean, 1.5 kilograms could be a little bit of water retention from one thing, definitely food volume, like Chloe's saying, these things weigh more. I would try not to stress about it. The thing is, and it comes back to focusing on the process, when you understand the science, that it cannot possibly be body fat. I mean, that would be like, I can't do the math that quickly, but I'm going to say over 10,000 extra calories above your total daily energy expenditure that you would have needed to consume to put on that much fat in that amount of time. It's not happened. So try not to stress about it. Just continue. You know where we are if you want to change things, but I would give it at least 2 weeks.
I agree. Okay, Claire says, any recommendations for measuring body fat at home? So as we said, we want you going on the scale weight, ideally every day. We want you to do waist measurements, ideally once a week, and we'd like you to do progress pics every couple of weeks. When it comes to measuring your body fat at home, unless you have calipers and you know how to do it and you're kind of experienced in doing it, there really is no other way to do it. And certainly not those fancy pants scales that measure fat. Really don't. So I would say don't worry about measuring body fat at home unless you know how to do it properly with calipers. Emma, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Don't do it. I would just say don't do it at all. Even if you have calipers, like if you have calipers, you could look at a body site, like a body fat site, and take the inches on that, but I still wouldn't transfer that to how much body fat you have, like do the calculation, because that's where a lot of the issues come in. So I would just say don't. And I think this has come up quite a lot in the last week, or maybe it's just with certain clients, but it's this obsession with like, well, how do I know if I'm in a deficit? How do I know how much I've burnt? And the answer is you don't. Like, you won't know. You just have to go by like how you respond to that. So stick to something, stick to it consistently for 2 weeks, like we're saying, for a good chunk of time, and then see what's happened, and then you monitor and adapt from there. But the truth is, you don't know if today you're in a deficit or in a surplus. Like, these things change all the time. You could probably say that you're in a deficit. You don't know by how much, and you never will know that exactly. But some of these watches and things come out saying an exact number, and it's not accurate. So try and ignore that. Try and follow the process. Try and stick to the behaviors that we've outlined for you.
We've said this before, you know, we want you to be as, you know, on the ball as possible, but there are no accurate numbers, okay, in any of this. So how much you weigh on the weighing scales that day is not a direct reflection of how much body fat you have that we want you to lose. How many calories are in that microwave meal? It's going to be 20% off minimum either way. Did MyFitnessPal track that thing accurately? Most definitely not. How many calories should you be on for fat loss? It's a guessing game. It's all a guessing game, and all these things are rough numbers. This is why we always want you to start higher, because we give you the rough number of this is what should work, and then the only way we know what's 100% accurate is how you then respond en route. That's it. So yeah, it's God, I'm finding it really hard to get my words out today.
Yeah, me too. I think it was a lot of stress to get on here.
I know.
Sarah's just saying it's definitely a case of if you stick to the plan and do the exercises, you can't go wrong. Yes, gal.
Yeah,
100%.
simplify it. Like, don't ask yourself too many questions. Don't get in your own way. I said this before, and I will keep saying it because I think people really need to do this. It is your job to execute what Emma and I tell you to do. The only thing you have to be active in is when you go on Facebook and you tag us and you say, I've been the same body weight for 2, 3, 4 weeks. Then it's our job to take that off you and change it for you. But you just do what we tell you and then don't ask too many questions because, let's be honest, you're probably not going to get the right answer anyway. You know, especially if Emma and I are guessing as we go, it's going to be even harder for you. Okay, Susan says, can your body react to food? I think I'm at my heaviest when I eat porridge. Should I stop eating it? Emma?
Interesting. I mean, it can react to food in the sense that maybe porridge is quite stodgy. Maybe it sits like we were talking about food volume. Things with high fiber often take longer to pass through you, which means that, yes, if you have porridge the next day, you might weigh a little bit more because it's still inside you, still being broken down, processed, and you haven't passed it out yet. Essentially, that would be how you. Obviously, you can respond to food in different ways if you have certain reactions to them, but you would know if you were gluten intolerant by now.
Yeah,
I would assume. So, I mean, it's completely up to you. And porridge is a great food. If you enjoy it, I would keep it in your diet. If you would like something a bit lighter, maybe you want to swap it for fruit and yogurt for breakfast. Again, absolutely fine. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you know, it's a good source of fiber, so that's likely to be reflected on the scales. As Emma said, it's a slow release carb. It gets broken down slower, likely to be reflected on the scales. You might have a little bit of an intolerance to it in some way, shape, or form, which is probably more likely to be reflected in kind of bloating, how you feel. Do you feel heavier and fuller when you eat it to a very uncomfortable degree, in which case you might have a bit of an intolerance, and swap it out for something more fast digesting. Rice Krispies is amazing macros and good bang for buck. Actually, Cocoa Pops are lower calorie, I'll have you know, but they're fast digesting and a lot less likely.
Lower calorie than Rice Krispies?
I know, I have no idea why. I don't know. Probably a miscalculation from Kellogg's.
So strange.
But yeah, I know it is really weird, but yeah, something a bit more fast digesting that, you know, you still get your morning bowl of carbs, but yeah, you're not going to get fat because you eat porridge. Again, there is no food that will do that. It's only calories that will do that. Even if you have a Mars bar every day, it's not going to make you fat. It's what's your total calorie intake at the end of the day / week. Again, this is where we say don't pay too much attention to the scale, because if that's what happens when you eat porridge, that's a very, very good kind of case study as to why the scales are not measures of body fat.
Exactly.
Okay, Emma, any questions your end, or shall I keep rolling them out?
Okay, we had a few pop up. This is a good one from Ollie, just talking about how tracking, like, it's hard to track accurately, or you just miss things out. So he says, I've been tracking for a few years, but only thought to count cooking spray and sugar-free drinks this week. It's only about 50 to 100 calories max, but that can still make a difference. And to be honest, for Ollie, it probably doesn't make a difference. He's a very active man. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're quite sedentary, or you're a small female who's on quite low calories, 50 to 100 calories can make quite a lot of difference over the week. So you're looking at like 700 calories potentially over the week. So it is like, even things that you're just like, oh, this is a zero, you know, even if like a drink says 0 calories, it's not. It's normally like 5 to 10 calories, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to be like, oh my God, 5 to 10 calories. I mean, if you really care about that, do 20 squats or something. But it's the point of just like, every little thing adds up. So even if you think, oh, well, you know, I put like a dash of milk in my tea, that's nothing. Okay, but if you have 3 teas a day for a week, that is something. So these little things add up, and it's just being aware of how little things can add up. Talking of the scales and weight loss gain, can you clear the myth of muscle versus weight debate?
I mean, what?
Oh, wait, sorry. It's, can you clear the myth of muscle versus fat weight debate. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, because I think some people say muscle weighs more than fat,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
like obviously it doesn't, because anything weighs the same if it's
as it
like, you know, a
weighs.
kilogram of fat weighs the same as a kilogram of muscle, but a kilogram of fat might look like this and a kilogram of muscle might look like this. You know, like this.
You know, yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is a really fucking annoying thing, and also you can't turn fat into muscle, just while we're on it. But anyway, so okay, so muscle is that, so so a pound of feathers weighs the same as a pound of metal. I mean, a pound is a pound is a pound is a pound. What the confusion comes from, a pound of fat is likely going to spill over, for example, both of your hands, right? But muscle is denser, so a pound of muscle you could likely hold in one hand. That's it. That's why I was doing this.
Right, so I'll have the pound of fat, right, and you do the pound of muscle. No, yours is smaller. Oh yeah, that's it.
Oh wait, yeah. Why do I hunch? But yeah, it always the same. It's just that if you could have more, you could have, okay, so someone who had 10 pounds of muscle, who was lean and had 10 pounds of muscle on them, would obviously look very different from someone who was lean and then had 10 pounds of fat on them. Although 10 pounds isn't really a lot, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Or I think you know, sometimes you see comparison pictures, and I really like these where it's someone who's like, I weigh the same in both these pictures.
Yes.
And one of them, they've got a lot of body fat, and one of them, they would look like, you'd be like, oh, they're, you know, and they might even say I was a size 16 and here I'm a size 10. And you're like, oh, okay, that's amazing that you weigh the same, because yes, muscle does weigh a lot compared to the space it takes up.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we have dispelled that.
Okay, do you have any more your end, or shall I?
You crack on. I think we've got quite a lot in that post.
Oh, fab. Okay. If I'm not getting enough veg in a meal, or if I feel like I'm not, can I make a smoothie of green veg? So yeah, everybody knows that Emma and I really want you guys getting veg in all of your veg and protein in all of your meals. So and people always struggle at breakfast. So for breakfast, I would be like, you know, a veggie omelette, or you could just have like yogurt and fruit. So we just want something that's got good fiber and good micronutrients, which is vitamins and minerals, in your meals throughout the day. However, if you feel like you struggle sometimes, things like green supplements can be just a really good supplement to your diet. And yeah, absolutely, get it in a smoothie. I don't know which meal plan there's a green smoothie in, but it's one of them. And I think I've got a Vitsy one as well. I think there's a few. So yeah, absolutely, get it in there. Emma?
Yeah, totally fine. The only thing that I worry about, and this is normally when you're a bit further on in your diet, so if you've got quite few calories to play with and then you're having a smoothie, like the good thing about eating a lot of fruit and veg is it's high in like volume. So if you compare, I don't know, say you can get a hell of a lot of spinach in the smoothie and you've got some blueberries in there, half a banana, whatever, what do you think is going to fill you up more? Eating a huge plate of veg or fruit or whatever you put in there, or drinking the shake?
Yeah.
And I would say definitely make sure it's a shake and you're not juicing it, because juicing it basically just takes out effectively all of the goodness apart from some of the vitamins and minerals, leaves you with the sugar. And I mean, it might taste nice, but you've missed out on all that fiber. So yeah, that would be 100%. Something to be aware of.
100% agree with all of that. And you just said something which I was like, oh, I need to address that. Oh, okay. This is quite funny. So I think things are obvious to Emma and I because we've been doing this for so long, and like, so our kind of common sense with everything is obviously informed. Whereas if you're new, it's different. So somebody was on 1,600 calories and was already feeling really full, you know, which is usually a really good sign that they're getting, you know, they're doing what we're saying. And was like trying to make their meals really veggie and voluminous and like get loads in, and was like, I'm finding it really hard because I'm already really full. Okay, so the reason we're telling you, we want veg in your meals anyway to get your micros in. However, the reason we're telling you to really pile it on in there and, you know, make your meals really voluminous is to help you feel satiated and to stop you from feeling hungry. If you're already struggling and you feel really full all the time, you need to drastically reduce that. And you can even put some more fast digesting carbs in there, so some more sugary carbs, like, you know, what you would think is the bad carbs if you want, especially around training. That's great. But you can drastically reduce your veg intake to just like a small handful of greens with each meal is enough. That's fine. If you're already feeling full, you do not need to take our advice feeling diet hacks to feel satiated.
Yeah. I think it's hard to know sometimes which bits apply to you. But yeah, if you're already feeling satiated, I would say a good thing to do is use that as an opportunity to get in some really good fats. So like sprinkle some olive oil on your veg. Like that will add calories to the meal so that you hit your calorie target. But it's also just such a good thing to get in. And I don't think there are superfoods, right? I think, well, that's a complete gimmick. But if there's one thing that I think is like as close to a superfood as you can get, probably either like omega-3s, so like fatty fish, or olive oil.
Yeah.
And I think because
berries as well, I would say,
some kind of,
they pack a good punch.
Definitely. And because they're so low in calories, it's brilliant. But the Mediterranean diet, which is essentially like a lot of fish, a lot of fruit and veg, not that many carbs, not particularly low carb, but not that many carbs, probably on the higher fat side. Probably the only diet that has like real support that in terms of health. And again, when we come back to fat loss, like it is still calories in, calories out. But in terms of health, they seem to have really nailed that, the Mediterranean style diet. So anything that sort of sways you more towards that, definitely a good thing in my book.
I agree. Domino's pizza does not fall into the Mediterranean diet bracket. Just so we're clear. Emma, a question from a grad, Debs. Deborah, I haven't asked you if you mind that I call you Debs, but I do it anyway. Are there any benefits to eating organic?
Okay, no. Yeah, that was easy.
No. I mean, it's nice, you know, look, you can, I think is it 8% is what it was. I did learn this once. I often learn things and then forget them. I think there's an 8% kind of nutritional benefit difference in terms of your overall nutrients. So it can be a little bit better. But no, I want everybody to try and get like really healthy, great sources of protein and veg in there, because they are just going to be very nutrient dense and they're going to do what we want them to do. However, if you can't afford to go organic, it's not a big deal at all. So don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, I think it's really expensive. It's sort of like, and people put their nose up at like either not organic or even things like frozen veg. But frozen veg is great. Frozen fruit and veg is absolutely fine. And actually, sometimes it's better than the fresh stuff, because sometimes the fresh stuff is out of season, which means it doesn't have as good a micronutrient content in it. So, like for example, I don't know, like pick anything, berries. They are better and they have more of the good stuff in them, like micronutrients, when they are in season. So when they're out of season, although you can still get them in the supermarket, they aren't quite as good. Now with the frozen veg, what they normally do, because obviously when things are in season, there's more of them, they get them, they freeze it straight away, and then you have it for the rest of the year. So frozen veg is great. It's much cheaper, and it's also I guess easy if maybe you're cooking for yourself, or maybe you're the only one that's really eating the fruit that you're trying to get everyone to eat in your household, and you've always got a bowl of fruit that's like going out of date. Like you just end up never buying any because you don't want to see that happening. Yeah. But if you always have some frozen fruit, then you've always got something you can just like open the freezer. You know, if you've not got any fresh stuff, cool. You've always got something to get and go. So I think frozen veg, frozen fruit is a pretty good thing to have in.
Yeah, remember at the beginning of lockdown, everyone was like, I can't get any fresh fruit and veg. And I was like, good, go to the frozen aisle. It's going to be fresher anyway, ironically.
Yeah. And cheaper. Like,
way
the
cheaper.
other day, I ate...
Way cheaper.
Like, how easy is it to eat, like, a massive thing of blueberries? It was like, it was just like snacking on it. And then I was like, oh, that cost me £5.
Yeah, and actually, if you get the frozen ones, if you get frozen berries, this is a good tip. Actually, I hate sweets. Like I just said, Haribo. Like I hate them. I'm like a chocolate girl. I'm like cookies, cake, that kind of thing. But sweets, I just like why? I don't get it. Anyway. Anyway, if you do love sweets, which I think is a lot of people, get frozen berries, and you can literally just like pop them in your mouth and suck them, and then it's like you're having a sweet. James
It is true.
He's like laughing in the background.
I do that. I think it's good. Or when they're like half defrosted. Oh.
Oh, God, we're such like health kinos. Frozen berries are great. Everyone who loves Haribo is like,
them.
fuck
I'm
off.
so satiated after them. I have no cravings whatsoever.
I love it. What are your thoughts on pre-workouts and collagen supplements? P.S. Thanks for doing an awesome job. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, gal.
Thanks, babe. So pre-workouts, a cup of coffee will do. Just have an espresso or a double espresso if you're like me and obsessed with caffeine. But really, pre-workouts, you don't need them. You just need caffeine. Collagen supplements are great. I used to, although I haven't had them in a while and haven't replaced them. They had like gummies, but they do have calories in them, so be aware of that. Emma, what are your thoughts on pre-workouts and collagen supplements?
I agree on the pre-workouts. They're definitely not needed. I personally don't like them when we're talking about like the brand ones that you take a little scoop of. There's normally beta-alanine in it, which can be like, has been shown to be good for performance. I find it really off-putting. It makes you tingly and
I hate it.
Yeah, it's not something that I enjoy. But then like, I mean, if you like them and you want to take it now and again, totally fine, not the end of the world. But the active ingredient in it really is caffeine. So if you want to have a coffee instead, or like a sugar-free energy drink, fine. Collagen, there is some really interesting research on it. So previously I probably would have said don't bother, but I actually think it could potentially help especially if you're injured with potentially like a tendon injury.
Yeah.
Really could be useful.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's quite an advanced supplement. I know that sounds weird, but there are certain people like James, for example, who take supplements that are great, definitely great, but I don't need to take them because it doesn't really apply to me, my body, what I've been through, what I'm trying to do. And then there are supplements that I think are just great for Joe Public, like omega supplements, like, multivit, stuff like that, probiotics. I would say if you're pretty good and you're pretty new to all this, don't worry too much about supplements you've heard of and you're not sure of. Go to the supplements file on the doc and look at that. Those are kind of your Joe Public, general rule suggestions. Claire says, I just want to say a massive thank you for this week. The group has been so supportive and the advice that you've provided has been invaluable. 14 weeks postnatal and I'm finally beginning to feel like my old self again. Yay!
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. Laura, firstly, I want to say a big thank you to you both. I know that we're only on day 5, but this is hands down the best program I've ever tried. Yeah. It is realistic and achievable. The community on here is awesome. I've already seen a few recipes that I'm going to be stealing from other people's posts. Secondly, guys, we love you guys uploading your food and your meals. I think that's the most helpful thing for all of us, including Emma and I, especially Emma, in case you don't know the kind of food she cooks, but she can use all the help she can get. I love that thing you sent me. Step 1, peel the orange. Step 2, eat the orange. That's Emma's cooking.
Yeah, I'm like, this is why Chloe does the recipes. Because I'm like, do you know what's great that I've just worked out? Put your carrots in the microwave. Feel like that probably wouldn't go down as one of the best recipes going.
My publishers would love you, honestly. I'm doing this like recipes book right now and it is a lot of work and I'm obviously a complete control freak, so like it's just I'm making it even harder for myself. But I mean, they want to make everything really complicated and I want to make everything really easy, so it's like a constant battle, but I'm winning, obviously.
I think there is a line, isn't there? Like, obviously you want it as simple as possible so people can actually do it. Like, you don't want one of those recipes where it's like, oh, just reach for the fresh parsley that you always have, and like stuff that just like people don't have at home. But then it needs to be exciting as well.
There's a spider crawling my car.
Ollie's telling you off saying don't knock Emma's microwave carrots.
Okay, sorry, let's finish this question because I didn't get to the actual question. Secondly, the question with regard to measurements and photos, do we do it every week or every 2 weeks? I think you said 2, but I just wanted to check. So 3 words: check the announcement. I am going to get it into every single podcast in life that we do. But yes, look, weighing in we like you to do every day because it's so higgledy-piggledy. You're going to get much better data, and we want you to take your lowest weight every week. Measurements, waist measurements once a week is enough. Photos every 2 weeks. You don't need to do it every week. You won't see changes every week. You probably won't see changes every 2 weeks, but you might. So every 2 weeks. Okay. That's all been answered. Do you have an opinion on what type of milk is nutritionally best? I drink quite a lot of tea, and I've been trying to have oat milk instead of dairy, as I thought I might have a bit of an intolerance. It's made no difference at all, but I've noticed that they are very different in calories. Okay, so milk. Actually, studies have shown that they took a group of male bodybuilders. So let's just be clear that, Rosanna, I don't think you're a male bodybuilder, but I'll reference the study anyway because it's quite interesting. And they pulled out milk and dairy from one of their diets, and they basically increased it in the other group's diet, cow's milk, in the other group actually, and then they put them both in a fat loss phase. And the group that kept up with drinking dairy and drinking milk actually retained more muscle mass at the end of the diet. Now, this is neither really here nor there, but what it goes to show is that unless you are lactose intolerant, which a lot of people are, in which case you should drastically reduce your dairy, but unless you're lactose intolerant, it is not going to have a negative effect on either your ability to lose fat or your actual physique results. So really, it's whatever you'd rather and whatever sits well with you. I personally drink unsweetened coconut milk because I like the taste, and I don't really mind what kind of milk you go for. Emma, what do you think?
I don't mind what milk you go for. I think in the grand scheme, I think including dairy, if you don't have an intolerance to it, is actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a great source of protein. I think it's quite a great lean source of protein as well. It's got full amino acid spectrum. It's readily available. It's not too expensive. So it kind of ticks all the boxes. So if you don't have to avoid it, don't avoid it. What you have in your tea or coffee probably isn't going to make much of a difference as long as you account for the calories. It's not going to be your main source of protein unless maybe you're having like Greek yogurt or something like that, which you wouldn't have in your coffee anyway. But yeah, milk and coffee or tea, completely up to you, completely up to preference.
A quick one, do you have any tips for helping a sore or stiff neck?
I think in fact this is a good time to talk about this. So it's really hard for us to give almost like physio/injury advice, just because I think we had someone today being like, oh, my shoulder hurts when I do a certain exercise, what should I do? Like, one, if it's pain and not like, oh, this hurts because my muscles are working hard, then you need to stop that exercise. And you either put a video in the group of the exercise you're doing so we can check your technique on that. Well, do that. That's not really an option. Just do that so we can check your technique. But if it's not that, then it could be like a slight niggle. Now, I want everyone to err on the side of caution with injuries. Like, if you feel something, like, take a little step back, because you are all like, if it turns into something worse, then you might have to stop doing the workouts. If it just means that you cut one workout short a little bit, but the next day it was okay again, then that's fine. Or if it means that you have to take a week a little bit easier, again, that's fine. In terms of this specific question with the sort of crook in the neck, I would look at how you're sleeping, like how many pillows you're using, if there's too many, too little, how you're sitting on your desk, or if you have a desk, because I know a lot of people are now working from home, and they might be working on something that's not quite right, like a kitchen table and the chair's wrong and the desk is wrong and they're hunched over. So I would look at those things if it's a bit of a crooked neck. Also, with almost all upper body exercises, the first thing that people do when things get hard is tense up like this.
Yeah.
And so just think about shoulders down, relaxed, good posture when you're doing any movement. And that's all I think for the neck. What would you suggest?
No, I completely agree with everything you've said. I think it's really hard for us to tell you. There's a difference between, feeling like you have DOMS because you've been training, feeling like, maybe a joint is not right, feeling like you've actually maybe hyperextended something. These things, Emma and I, we're not physios anyway, but add to that, we're not there with you. These are things where you actually have to take a bit of responsibility for your body and feel it out. Obviously if it's muscle soreness or stiffness, then it's really good to have like hot baths. It's really good to do like nice dynamic stretch out routines to get that blood flowing, stretch out your muscles, get the blood to the muscles. Having high protein intake, having a carb intake around training can be really helpful. Keeping your hydration in check. These are the kind of things that, PTs and stuff will tell you. But in terms of like, oh, this really hurts, or, oh, I can't quite turn here, we don't know, and we're not even with you. So yeah, just I would say take the DOM advice, and if you think it goes beyond that, go somewhere else, go to a physio or a doctor and ask.
Mm-hmm. And what you will find as well is that most things heal by themselves with time. So I don't know what I did, but I think I pulled my pec, but it was so strange because I could also feel it in my back, and if I touched my pec, I could feel the pain in my back. Anyway, obviously there's no physios, so I couldn't really do very much. I just stopped doing press ups, and it took about 2 weeks, and now it's better and it's fine. Like, it will normally heal with time. And if you're not an idiot, like I was a little bit of an idiot, I could feel it a little bit, and I was like, that's weird. I'll just keep doing press ups.
Carry on.
But yeah, if you're not like that, then you probably won't have to have the 2 weeks off. But sometimes you just have to give your body time.
Fully agree. Do you have any recommendations for working up from modified exercises? For example, I have a very weak core. I end up mainly doing box press ups. Is there any benefit to this? Yes. Do start where you can start. Of course, there's a benefit to that. That is your level right now. And how can I best progress? I'd love to be able to do a full press up at the end of the 8 weeks. So, okay, of course, there's still benefits. If you guys have to slow down a circuit, if you had to modify an exercise, if you are working, even if you've got help, you are still training that muscle up. And, this is why I always usually call it training, because you are training your body to be able to get to a place where you can do everything, kind of as optimally as possible. So I would say start by doing your box press ups, absolutely. And then see if if it's a timed workout and say it's 30 seconds, do it for 20 and see if for the last 10, can you do real push-ups? Or even go to the very end, or actually probably better to start with this. See how many real push-ups you can do. And the second that you know that you're done, go into box push-ups. I promise you, by the end of the 8 weeks, and all of our graduates will attest to this, you'll be doing full push-ups for pretty much the full amount of time that we want you to do them. We are just training your muscle, we're training your stamina, we're training your strength, we're training you up so that at the end of the 8 weeks, and this is why we have benchmark workouts, you can do everything as optimally as we want you to do. Emma, what do you think?
I saw an amazing comment from someone saying basically exactly that. They were like, when I started, like they were graduates, so they started now like a good 8-10 weeks ago. They said that they could barely do one push-up, and now they're doing sets of 10.
Yeah.
And just that, yeah, everyone starts there, and it's not like, oh, I feel awful because I can't do this and other people can. We're all starting somewhere, and as long as you're pushing yourself, we're happy. The other thing, I'll put a video up of this, but there's quite a good progression from a box push-up to a normal push-up. And that would be like, I'll try and do it here, but like going down in a box and then putting your knees up, like taking your knees off so you're pushing up normally.
Yeah.
I will do a video, but it's like a progression between, because it is quite a jump, like a full push-up to one on your knees. So yeah, there's a lot of progressions. There's even things like, so incline push-ups are a little bit easier. So if you have a sturdy chair and like push it against the wall so it's not going to fly away, but doing push-ups like onto a chair so that you're at an incline, that will be a bit easier as well. So there are loads of ways you can progress to it. And I think what Chloe's saying is perfect. That's what I always suggest, is that you start with full push-ups, and then when you fatigue, you move on to box push-ups. And the more and more you do that, the more and more reps you will get in your full push-ups.
Okay, good. Any recommendations for getting water in? I have PPE in which I can't take off for a minimum of 4-hour sessions. Oh,
wow.
babe. Yeah. Try to
you
guzzle
need
it
one
down.
of those, you know what like ultra marathon runners wear, and it's got like a little straw on it, and you sit on your back. Yeah, she needs one of them.
And a Shewee. James bought me a Shewee, and then I swear to God, got really angry that I didn't want to use it in the car. I was like, not like, what is wrong with you?
I don't see it. Like, someone bought me one because I always need a pee.
Same.
And I still can't really understand how it works. Like, it wasn't.
No, we're not using it, Emma. Neither
We
you nor I
are
are
not
using the
using
Shewee.
it.
Fucking off.
I'm making the decision for us. Okay, anyway, sorry. She says, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to guzzle it down in my breaks, but then I have to pee all the time and it's just not working. Okay, so obviously I would, yeah, look, you can't be guzzling down water when you then have to pee all the time. I don't really know what advice to give you.
Okay, I have some reassurance here, I hope.
Okay.
So your body is amazing at maintaining its hydration status. Drinking a lot of water is good, but the reason that you're peeing a lot is because you have too much water, so it needs to get rid of some. Now, getting rid of some is good as well, because it gets rid of other sort of byproducts that you don't want, like urea, etc., etc. But if you're peeing all the time, it simply means that you're like almost too hydrated.
Yeah.
So you don't need to drink as much. So although I think actually if you don't have a drink for 4 hours, that's too long to not have a drink. But that's the situation you're in. What I would say is you don't need to like guzzle down liters and liters in your break, because you are just going to pee too much. And your body will like kind of adapt to the fact that it knows it's not getting as much water, so it won't pass as much water.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to know your thirst level as well. Hopefully that will adapt, because like normally you can sort of go along with your thirst. So your body will tell you, okay, I need more water. I'm going to make you thirsty. Cool, you'll drink water. And then if it's got too much, you will pee more. Simple.
I think that's fantastic advice. I think that's, obviously it's suboptimal going 4 hours without having a sip of water. But Emma's right. Like, exactly what she said. If you're guzzling it down and then you can't go off the toilet, that's a problem. Like, that's not good for you. It's not good for your body. It's not a good idea. I think she's right. I think respond to your hydration, to your thirst signals. So maybe just start by having a good old sip, a good old glug. Give it a minute and see where you're at then. And she's right. It is the situation you're in. I think, it's one of those things where we're both desperate to help because it's our job, but sometimes you have to figure it out yourself and try and figure out what's best and what you can do.
One little thing to add as well that just crossed my mind: potentially avoid caffeine when you're drinking in those breaks, because that can increase the amount you need to pee.
It's a diuretic.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want that, and actually that can make you dehydrated. So that would probably be our only tip, I think, is just drink to thirst, try and get in fluid, but also, in fact, I think the most the most hydrating drink is milk.
Yeah, I always wondered if that was an old wives' tale or if that was true, but I never looked into it. So
there was a study on it, and it was quite interesting.
Wow, there you go then. Think about that. Okay, any opinion with regards to home juicing? I don't want you guys juicing habitually. I don't mind if you do it in the morning because it's a great way to get your juice in, and you like juice. I don't mind if you're on the go, so you do like a protein shake. I do not want you guys doing it morning, noon, and night, Monday through Sunday. It has negative effects on your digestive system. It has, to be fair, unless you are putting protein powder in every single one of your juices, which I highly doubt you are, or egg whites, which I highly doubt you are not going to be able to get enough protein in if you're juicing. And even if you do put in protein powder to every single one of your juices, where's your real source of protein? Like, what else? Like, how are you going to get in other nutrients that are really beneficial from either animal protein or other sources of protein? And I honestly think it is, if I'm going to be honest, unless you really have to liquidate all your food, I really think it is promotes a really unhealthy relationship with food, and I am not a fan of it. So like I say, around workout, shakes in the morning, juicing, you're on the go all day, you're traveling all day, meal replacement shakes, I don't want it to be an habitual thing. So I would say that's my thought on it. Emma, what's your thought on juicing at home?
Not a fan of juicing. If you want to
No.
make a smoothie, have a smoothie, great. But I mean, like, just, I don't even know that, like, just whiz up all of the food, the fruit, the veg, whatever you're having in it, but don't juice it, because the difference there is that when you juice, you're taking out a lot of the pulp, which is where all the fiber is. So you don't want to take that out. The other thing I would say that is, if you're doing that and you enjoy it, that's fine. If you're juicing it and not juicing it, sorry, if you're making a smoothie, fine, you enjoy that. But if you then start to think, oh, I'm really hungry, I'm really struggling to stick to this diet, then maybe think, okay, would a big bowl of whatever do me better? Would actually eating the food, would chewing the food? Because, like, it's not just the calories in food that makes you full, it's even the effect of chewing, the time taken to eat that food, the volume, so how much it's taking up in your stomach. There'll also be a small effect of the thermic effect of food, so how many calories you're using to break down that food, because you've whizzed it up, so it's already like basically half broken down. There'll be a higher glycemic index on it, a bit faster acting, which isn't a huge deal, but these are all things that, when you're getting to the stage of I'm really hungry and I'm struggling to stick to this diet, that might come into play. So be aware of that.
Yeah, everything. The chewing, I mean, your digestive system starts and kicks off from the second that you put food in your mouth. And Emma's right, the action of actually eating. And then what happens then when you're digesting that food all the way down till it comes out the other end, it's one whole linear process. And you are cutting a fair amount of that out from top to bottom when you juice everything. And that's not what we want. It's just not what we want. So yeah, if you're going to do it at times of the day. Do not do it all day. Do not do it every day. This is a good question. Do we recalculate depending on our weight loss every 2 weeks? No. So we give you a rough guide of where we want you to start. As we said, if you're smaller and have less to lose, if you're sedentary and are less active, if you have a lot of body fat, which is stored energy, we want you starting on the lower end of a calorie intake. If you are taller, if you are super duper active, we want you starting on the higher end of a calorie deficit. We want you all to start somewhere in a 16 to 1800 calorie bracket of a calorie deficit, and then when you start to lose, we want you to stay there for as long as you can until you plateau for 2 or 3 weeks, at which point we don't want you to recalculate, because you already got your data. You don't need to guess anymore. It's no longer a guessing game. These are the calories you lose on, and if it starts to slow down and you start to plateau, because that happens when you're in a calorie deficit for a long period of time, well, then recalculate and reduce. But that's why we say we want you to start on the higher end. And that's also why you don't need to recalculate ever after week 1. Emma, what do you think?
Could not agree more. I think this is such an important point to make. Like, these calorie calculators give you a starting point. Never ever go back to them. Like, even if you're now like, oh, okay, I want to build muscle. Do I need to recalculate my calories? No. We just go from where you are, add calories onto that, monitor and adapt from there. So even if you've come onto this plan from another plan or from tracking before or whatever, if you know where you're sitting already, there's no need to go to a calorie calculator, because that's way more inaccurate. Your body knows more about the energy balance that you have than a calorie calculator does. So no, we don't need to go back to that. I get the question, because you're absolutely right. As you lose weight, you will become a smaller person. You would need less calories to maintain your weight. So I understand the idea behind the question. Should you then lower your calories as you lose weight? But the fact is so let's say you're in a 500 calorie deficit to start, you lose a little bit of weight. Okay, now you're in a 450 calorie deficit, but you're still losing weight. And we don't want to drop that until you plateau. And when we say you plateau, it's not just, oh, it's been 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks that you can honestly say that consistently, on average, you stuck to those calories over the week? Because if you can't say that, then we make sure that you're adhering to that first. And I think that's a huge problem that people are like, I've not lost weight. I didn't really stick to my calories. I want to lower them. And that's a vicious cycle because it's like, no, you have to prove to us and yourself that you can stick to these calories first before we even consider lowering them. Like, that's a sure way to just end up in a bit of a spiral and not be able to stick to them. So I think admitting, and as well, like, we're not here to judge. We're here to help you. And sticking to your calories is really hard. So if you say, do you know what? I found it really hard. I've not been able to stick to my calories over the last 2 weeks. Then all we do is look at places where we can help you do that. Okay, let's look at a normal day for you. Where are you eating? Where are calories adding up? Where are things we can cut back? Where is it that you tend to go wrong? We identify that time and see if we can change a few little things around to fix that. So we're here to help you, but you have to be honest with us. And if the calorie target is too tough for you at the moment, tell us and we will adapt it.
Agreed. Okay, let's make this the last question because I think we've been going for over an hour. Okay, Fiona says, could you consider renaming the workouts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so that people can choose when they can do them? 5 days on the trot is too much for some of us, so it would make it obvious that it's not expected as long as you do a minimum of 3. So 1, yes, we can rename them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so that you guys know that you don't have to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and then have 2 days off. However, just to be clear, if anybody's confused about this, we have been saying from day dot 3 to 4 minimum a week of your choosing. 5 to 6 maximum a week of your choosing. And we don't care what order you do them in. We don't care what time of day you do them in. We just want you doing 3 to 6 every week. But I'm happy to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 it. Emma, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It's a good suggestion. And that's the other thing. Like we're always, we want to make this the best possible program we can for you. If you feel like that's better for you, then we will adapt and change that. I guess we just probably thought, okay, Monday to Friday, we wanted 5 workouts. There's Monday to Friday. It does make sense. I get that some people have in their head as well, and I kind of like it, that they're like, oh, I don't want to miss a session. And so maybe on a Wednesday when they're like, I could really do with a break, they think that they have to do that. So I completely understand that. I think we initially did it because it is quite nice when you're like, oh my God, who's done the Monday workout? It was really hard, like my abs are burning or whatever. Like it creates a bit of a community because you're all training together. But equally that could be done with, oh my God, who's done number 2's workout or whatever. So yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, we'll do it because we want it to work for you guys. But generally speaking, honestly, the rule is 3 to 4 min, 5 to 6 max. Do it whenever you want, and whatever you want, and that's the end of that. But we will do it to help you. I just want to do one last one. Are there any benefits to taking casein protein powder? Whey protein is fast digesting, and it's kind of easy and good. Casein is slower digesting, so people tend to take it before bed. It really doesn't matter either way. I really don't care. It's completely up to you. Emma, what do you think?
I would stick with whey, unless I guess if you wanted to have something before bed, fine. If you're like asking because something has casein in, that's fine. But if you were choosing between casein and whey, I would go with whey protein.
Yeah.
Just a few comments before we leave. So Steph says, I genuinely think every other time I have tried dieting, I failed because I have set my calories too low. That's so common.
Yeah.
And then just one last question. So my friend has just done the military diet, which I think is ridiculous. What are your thoughts? I've never heard of it. Have you?
I've never heard of it.
But generally, any diet with a name, probably not a good thing.
I would agree with that. And do you know what's so funny? When I first started PTing and online coaching, I really thought I had to know the answer to every single question. And every day people would ask me stuff like this, like, what's this? What do you think of this? And I'd be like, oh my God, what is this? And I actually think it's a reflection of how many people are doing the wrong thing because I would agree with Emma. I think guys, let's just please take our advice here. Please do start on the higher end of your calories. When you start to, we will work you down if you plateau. When you start to lose, those are your numbers. Great, stay there. Do not touch them, because at some point your body will readapt. You will plateau, and we'll have to drop them again. So obviously, like I said, we are still getting loads of messages in the group about this. Heed that advice. That's the rule to live by. Anyway. Go on.
Okay, apparently the military diet, just in case anyone is dying to know, is eating 800 calories a day for 3 days. It sounds silly. Do you know what? It's funny because like all these diets, like, oh no, this is the ESG diet. It's just like the same as any other diet. Like that is basically the 5-2 diet,
Yeah.
but just like over 3 days with slightly more calories.
Yeah, I think one of the girls was doing something like that, but it wasn't called the military diet. It was like 800 calories Monday through Friday. And then on the weekend, oh God, sorry, that was loud. And then on the weekend, whatever, like it's just a bad way to do it. It's a bad way to do it.
It's essentially like setting you up for binge eating.
Yeah, exactly. I know that, like, my God. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a lovely. Finally, we got on the live. Hopefully, it will be more simple next time.
We keep saying that every time, but next time we'll get it right.
Oh.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Emma. You're going to have to find a good place to start this for the podcast, but we will be back on Monday.